Hey everybody, this is Emily Moyer from Off Planet Radio, Matrix Mash, all the other stuff. And Sonia Barrett is here with me. And we are just kind of doing a little after chat. Our Off Planet Radio, which the Human Game number 9, resets and upgrades just went out yesterday. And the response to it has been kind of interesting. And so Sonia and I thought we'd make kind of like a little addendum video here just to sort of chat about some of our thoughts and what we've been seeing. So thanks for getting together today, Sonia. I'm having an afternoon of getting to talk with all sorts of lovely people, and I'm doing it all in my workout clothes. So there we go. You look lovely. I'm in my workout clothes.
No. I look lovely from like this part up.
You're in your underwear?
That's the next time we get together. We'll do something a little different.
Yeah, right. So,
oh my goodness.
You and I have a friend in common who used to take clients dressed up from the top up, like in really nice stuff, and starkers from the from the waist down on the video screen. You know.
Time, especially if it's a client that's been around for a while. I'm not looking my best, and then I'm like, "You've seen me beautiful." I always say that, "You've seen me beautiful."
Everyone knows you're beautiful, right? Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So Sonia, like the popular consensus after the video's been up for less than 24 hours is that you love 5G and that you can't wait to get a chip. And that you can't wait to get a chip. So you guys, just so you know, Sonia was chipped a long time.
Oh my God, that's all we need now for them to believe that. Right. There's somebody out there that's like several sandwiches short, as they say, of a picnic basket.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. Usually I hear, a taco short of a combination platter or something like that,
Yeah, I'm telling you, I saw that. Usually comments are fine, people say stuff. But I looked at that and I was like, what in the hell are you hearing that I said? I was just so blown away. I think I was blown away at I'm going to say the absolute ignorance of some people. And it also at the same time showed us, because I was talking to Emily, it showed me that there probably could be a lot of people that are actually thinking along those lines. They may not be commenting, but think not necessarily about me, but in terms of the bigger picture, the fear of 5G and whatever else they call me an idiot on. There probably are more people. So I thought, you know what? Let's just talk about it. Not really just because of those couple of people, but in the bigger picture. I think it brought up some really interesting angles to address and to maybe just expand on a little bit. So that's kind of where this kind of how this started with us doing this little addendum here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There was a time when all of this stuff would have, and I think I mentioned this during the show, would have scared me a lot, right? Would have had me all upset. And because I have a lot of energy, I'd have been radiating a lot of fear that then would have been picked up by people around me, right? But, I think sometimes people, either because they have not been around as long as you have, or because they had their entrance into this information through a different sort of portal, don't sort of recognize, like how long you've been in this alternative media realm and all the various paths that you've gone down. And I think most people, like you made a documentary called The Business of Disease. You obviously understand what is going on here, and you have done everything you can to promote the idea that people take responsibility for their own health and what goes into their body and how they treat it and all of that kind of stuff. So I think sometimes people are like, they don't have a holistic awareness of like the topics or the people who are talking about them, right? They don't have a full understanding. I think people fail to recognize the fact that for many, many years, you were at the front of a movement where people were trying to declare freedom and declare sovereignty and all of that kind of stuff. So you've been down all these paths. You're hardly naive to all of the issues.
Been down there, and would have been also at one point, I was talking about that. Okay, now we're talking going back to way before this became a thing. I've been using a EMF phone blocker since like what, the early 2000s, before it became, probably before that, but before people started to really think about it, late 90s, so to understand what, let me just say this. In the past, when I used to do my Sovereign Mind shows, there were a bit more on this part about what's going on, and safeguarding ourselves and so on. But there's growth that happens. Now, it's not that I don't know that this is going on, but what has happened is I've had enough years and enough growth and enough expansion to start to understand exactly what is going on as far as a human being, as far as the environment, as far as technology, as far as what needs to happen with each of us as human beings, what we need to do. So yeah, so no, I don't live in that space anymore of fear of 5G. Now, let me say this, Emily, because this is the part people forget. I remember when we heard that 3G was coming. Oh my goodness. Ugh, we were up in arms then. 3G was coming. Then there was 4G was coming. So 3G came. People dealt with it. There were even, I even have some of the media stuff that was here. This was from Amsterdam, where people were complaining that they were getting nauseous and all these different things that they were experiencing with 3G. Now you can go look that up. Then we moved into 4G. Oh, then we were like, oh my God, we're going into 4G. So common sense here, people, is what I'm saying. Use your common sense. If you don't have any, you got to find some. Because right after that, what do we started hearing about? 5G is coming. Oh, now we're up in arms about 5G. Sure, it impacts the body. These frequencies can have an impact because some people are more sensitive. Sure, it's impacting everything. But the fact here is, it's not about sitting around complaining about what they're doing to us with 5G and how it's taking everybody down. The darn question should be, what do I then need to do for myself? How am I taking care of this vehicle, this body? Because it's this body that you're talking about that's really impacted by these radio frequencies. And then let me throw this in. So you're complaining about 5G and, Sonia wants to be all up on the 5G. Well, let me just tell you this. You can go look that up. But China is already working on 6G. And that was last year that came out. 6G, there, here, everywhere. So if you're going to spend all that time focused on what's going to happen with 5G, the fact of the matter is it's happening. It's already happened. It's going to continue to happen. And it's called evolution. That's basically what it is. Human beings will continue to always stretch their minds, stretch their limits, stretch their abilities. It's part of the process. It's part of the growth. And that's why we hear survival of the fittest. I am always careful to say, I'm not just talking from a Darwinian standpoint, but the fact is that those who are fit, whether it be fit in understanding, in knowledge, in awareness, in body, in how one is taking care of your body and your mind, they are here. If you're not, then you're not here. What do they say? It's there's a terminology there. Adapt. So I use the word adaptation.
Right.
They don't even hear that.
Right.
They hear something completely different. I've seen a lot of negative comments over the years, every now and then. But some of the comments were the most foolish thing that I've ever heard, because you can clearly see that human beings continue to have to adapt to their environment. Do some research, you will see that they have to adapt, and generationally over time, yes, we continue to adapt. It travels through the gene pool, through the DNA. So 6G is coming. So if you can't get past 5G right now in your thought process, then apparently then you're not going to be here, because this is not going to stop. This is only the beginning, because we as a species are in a peak for expanding. This is why this is all just going crazy. We are in that level where expanding is part of the process, and it is happening, like it or not, it is going to happen. So what are you doing with yourself? Because they're not going to be stopping just because you're fussing about 5G. It's not going to happen.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I think that like a lot of, you know, for people who are into this whole, they're ruining our lives with 5G thing. Like, I'm 100% sure that if the city showed up tomorrow and tried to put a 5G tower in your yard, you would say no. This is not a question of what, right? Okay. But the fact of the matter is, like, the only thing that you are actually in charge of is your space, your body, and your life. And so for all of the hours people spent keyboard warrioring about this or attacking people who disagree with them, if they had spent that time instead researching alchemy, nutrition, things like this, things that you could do. You guys don't realize Sonia is 675 years old. She's obviously figured something out, right? You know, this is the thing. This is one of the things that really gets to me is, like, first of all, I guarantee that all those people who, not all of them, maybe there was a few that weren't, but the bulk of people who were leaving some of these comments did so on their 5G enabled cell phone, right? So they haven't given up their cell phone. I'm 100% sure all of them have internet and Wi-Fi in their house, right? So it's like, okay, like, if you know, like, let's eliminate some of the contradictions. I have no tolerance for people who complain about chemtrails but smoke those vaping things, because that's ground level chemtrails right there, right? So it's like we see a lot of that kind of stuff.
Not a contradiction.
Right? But it's like one thing, like, I'm not suggesting that we embrace everything that comes down and just say, this is wonderful. But your time, and you know this from your experiences, and I know it from mine, your time is better spent changing yourself than trying to get other people to change. Right? Absolutely. And also, we live in a world, like you've said many times, where everything is allowed. And there's people who have figured out ways to deploy and profit from these technologies with sometimes some concern, oftentimes little or no concern about what it does to other people, right? But I'm not suggesting we do what other people do, but we're all entitled to also discover technologies to combat the effects of some of these things, to get people to create a situation where people can, you know, sort of expand beyond that, to eliminate these things for the bodies. And time is better spent doing that. Say no if they come to put a 5G tower on your street or in your yard, but instead of worrying about whether they've deployed it on the other side of the world while you're sitting there eating bonbons, stop eating the bonbons and go out for a walk, and you're going to be in a better situation.
Drink water. First of all, you have to drink quite a bit of water with all of these frequencies coming at you. You know, when I heard about the smart meters coming my way, coming this way, no, I declined it. I made sure. I'm like, no, we don't want. This was then. Now, can I hold that at bay forever? It's not that I'm going to be able to hold that at bay forever, because ultimately they will do what they need to do. But what Sonia does is Sonia holds things at bay for as long as I can. Do I want my house hooked up to these new systems where somebody can hack my house? Just talking to my husband about that just a couple days ago. No. So get a grip, people. No, I don't have my stuff hooked up where people can just hack my house or hack my mind. We're in a hacking time. This is part of what is going on. We get it. Yes. Ultimately, Emily, how many years have you heard me say that ultimately, yes, at some point, the last to go online is going to be human beings? So I get it. That is coming. It's pretty much here. As to how that is going to be offered in terms of people being sort of integrated, yes, in the system. So, they're more accessible online. So there's a lot that's coming. Now, this is, again, I just emphasize over and over, fear, just running around in fear and listening to a lot of these folks that are running around promoting fear at some of these conferences and stuff like that. If you want to do that, you can. If you want to just get your upload of fear, you can. Me, I am constantly digging deeper and looking at how I can stay ahead frequency-wise of anything that's going on. How can I create my own personal shield just by knowledge and a level of awareness that can actually create a shield? When you're running around in fear and war in your head, you just in this bantering state, that actually puts you in a frequency zone that makes you ripe for like frequencies, for those frequencies to come and affect your body, your frequencies, yourself. And in the end, what we're talking about when people are worried about it attacking their health, what you're really worried about is the cell's ability to receive oxygen, for your blood to be able to circulate through the body efficiently, effectively, to carry the oxygen. If you are not getting enough water, the cells, you're going to get lymphatic fluid backup. It's going to be like mud around the cells. I used to teach lymphology as well. You're going to get that around the cells, and the cells need what? They need electricity. Water is a conduit for electricity. So if you're not doing these certain things, you're going to end up in a situation that it is going to affect your health. So do your research, spend less time bantering and not being in a teachable space where you can't hear, because it's going to be to your detriment to not be able to actually hear something that's going to help you to be here, to remain here in this body in a healthy state.
I think so. One of the things people forget is just like they can create technologies that generate frequencies, we too are frequency generating machines, and we have the ability, to, deploy our own defense systems, but also to override some of the things that do come our way, right? Like to, and in some cases to be able to alchemize these things and, use something that may have been deployed with a nefarious intent as a building block for something else that is beneficial. I think that I'm thinking back to the guy you had on with the frequencies and using them, right? Using some of these energies and parasites and different things that are in the bodies to alchemize them into amino acids and building blocks for something else. What was his name? Palladino?
I love that. Tom. From
Palladino, right?
Palladino, right.
Yeah.
And I love the term that he uses, disassemble. He uses the term disassemble, meaning that the scalar light is disassembling pathogens. He doesn't say kill them. He says it's disassembling and it reassembles into these amino acids. And when we did the talk, when I did that free talk the other day, this is why I was emphasizing the idea of the fact that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but can be transformed from one form to the other. You too can do the same thing. You are transforming yourself, these frequencies. You're transforming things that might be a adverse situation in your body. It's all about that. It's all about that. Energy just is reshaping all the time. So is your thoughts. Your thoughts can create the most toxic environment in your body. It can create the most acid. That's really the word I want to use. The most acid environment in your body. So it's not just eating, trying to eat alkaline foods. Great, you're doing that. But if your thoughts are acid, it will affect the entire being, because thoughts come in, they're light frequencies. They come in through the top of your head, basically, as light frequencies, come right through the ventricles in your brain, right through and bathes all the cells through the fluid that flows through your spinal fluid. The spinal fluid bathes all the cells, and in that the spinal fluid is those light frequencies of thoughts. That's how our bodies are affected or impacted by our thoughts, because it's literally coming in as light frequencies, and your cells are being bathed in that information. That should make you have some sort of understanding as to how your body can become acid from your thoughts, those frequencies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this whole thing, I mean, I'm having this experience right now where, like, your thoughts are literally, I mean, what we eat, what we put into our body, and all that stuff is super important, right? But your state of mind, your thoughts, and all that kind of stuff really are far more powerful than even that, because right now I'm in this experience where I'm experimenting with the carnivore diet. So technically almost all the foods that I'm eating are acid. I'm not eating any alkaline foods, but the acidity alkaline balance of my body has not changed, right? Like, so I mean, there's just a few different things to that nutritionally or whatnot, but there's a lot of people out there who be like, oh my God, your body's going to be so acid, you're just going to have all this crap and this problem and that problem. Not true. You know what I mean? I've been testing. That isn't the case at all. And so, but what you're saying is absolutely right. When I was scared all of the time, I was in pain every day. I hardly left the bed. My face was broken out. Like, I couldn't.
Stress does that to you.
Yeah.
Stress, that's why stress takes people down. And in my film, The Business of Disease, that's one of the things that they really talked about. As a matter of fact, Anne Baroque was one that was really emphasizing that the way our emotions and the way stress can take you down. And in our world today, what we find is an environment that is ripe for producing and stimulating stress. And adrenal malfunction. I mean, everything just going haywire is just from people being so stressed, which makes a person more vulnerable to the cold or flu or any latent disease that's hanging around.
And especially a mind virus that's being passed around, right, from video to video and TV screen to TV screen and whatnot. Because, at the heart of what this is a mind virus.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's what's going on. And I find it sort of interesting. It's almost like, and we've seen this with everything. We've seen this with after the shootings and after the quote unquote terrorist attacks and whatnot. Like, people get vitriolic in the comment sections, and it's like they're sitting around waiting for their dopamine hit of fear. And if they don't get it, in fact, if someone hops on and is in a pleasant mood or laughing or has a different take on the situation, they're offended by it in the same way that, if you offended somebody's mother or their religion or whatever, and they're standing there ready to attack and pass full judgment on you and assign thoughts, beliefs, and characteristics to you that not only aren't true, but you've never even expressed anything that remotely resembles that.
Absolutely. And some of these people probably, and I'm not joking right now, but when I say probably do have a lot of parasites, because parasites
totally
in your body, or even in your brain, and people don't realize that there could be everywhere, even in your brain.
They cross the blood-brain barrier, parasites do. So,
yeah, absolutely. And they start doing all the thinking for you, and they start making people react a certain way. They start responding a certain way, start behaving a certain way. It just makes you ripe for the very thing that you don't want. But it is, again, it's just the emphasis is that it comes back to you and taking care of yourself. And we pulled up, my older son had reminded me of a show I did. It was called Matrix TV, I think some years back. It was like 2000, maybe 8, I think, or something like that. And it was interesting because at that time, there was another woman that was on, Dr. Is it like Albright, something like that. And she was also talking about, at that time, smart technology, which was like so new in people's minds. And she was telling what was going to go on and what was going to happen. Well, how often do we really say the word, like smart technology from a perspective of worry? We were worried about it before, but smart technology was the launch pad for everything else that came after that. And right now, I am telling you, 5G is a launching pad for bigger things to come. So you have to get a grip. You have to get a grip, and you have to begin to educate yourself on what you can do for your body. Running around cussing at the system for what they're doing, and with 5G, it's just, I cannot emphasize that more. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything. You have to worry about you. And when you educate yourself, you can pass that information along to family, friends, kids, whoever it is that at that point, will listen in terms of how you are going to maintain your body and keep your body at its optimum frequency. Instead of just spending time just being rude and absolutely mean. If I'm rude and mean like that, I'm going to question myself. I'm like, maybe I need a laxative.
Well, and this is an important thing that I actually brought it up in a video I made yesterday. I've been making this series of videos about the different kinds of dieting that I've done over the years and this carnivore experience I'm having right now. And one of the things that I'm starting to really pay attention to, because I can't deny it, is the quality of life of the people who are doing certain things, right? Like, so, for a long time in this alternative media space, we paid attention to the loudest, angriest, most bitter people.
Right.
And a lot of them are suffering from all sorts of problems, right? Or even if they don't for a long time, suddenly they have some kind of issue. What I'm starting to look at when I'm evaluating a person and whether I want to look further into their information, trust their advice, try what they're into, or even listen to anything they have to say is, does this person look to me like they are reasonably happy and enjoying life? Do they laugh? Do they look well? Right? Do they look healthy? And one of the things I was saying, and how do they behave? And one of the things I'm noticing as I sort of dig around in the carnivore community and boards and then watching people's videos, they're a happy bunch of people, right? When you go over and listen to some of the vegans, some of them are crazy and angry and yelling, and they're always yelling at everybody else and telling them what's wrong with them. And so while I'm cautious about any extreme to one side or the other, informationally or otherwise, when it comes to diet or anything else, I'm starting to really take into account the quality of life, the nature and the disposition of the person that I'm looking at when assessing if I want to, if I want to consider with any great attention what they're saying.
Right.
And there's people who are sometimes put off by a lot of the laughter and joy and jokes and things like that you and I do. But I'm just going to tell you this. If we're in as bad of a situation as everybody says we might be, I'd rather be with you than with someone who's yelling and screaming about everything.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. And the people that are offended because we would laugh a lot, they would be so much more offended if they actually hear in person the kind of laughing and the stuff that we laugh at.
Right.
Even here, the things that I laugh about with other folks that are of clear mind in that sense, because laughter is the medicine, boy. You have got to laugh. If you do not laugh, you are going to get yourself so stuck in a focus, and all you're going to do is keep pulling to you the things that you so don't want, the things that you so dislike. You're just going to get more and more of that. And like Emily was saying, as far as the diet is concerned, it's really about balance. Like if you're like, I know you're doing this for a while, but you're not going to do it for the next 20 years. You tend to, but
evolve.
You come back to it, but you're balanced. Yeah, absolutely. You're constantly balancing what you do, and you tune in to what you feel like your body might need right now. That's something that you do. And we both kind of do that. It's like, okay, what do I need? It's not necessarily the next diet, because it's not a one size fits all. And all the diets are relevant at a particular time, perhaps. You may need to be vegan. You may need to be vegetarian. You may need to be pescatarian. You may need to be whatever. And I've done a whole bunch of that stuff. I was vegetarian for at least 20 something years.
Me too. Yeah.
you know, but it was out of balance. So I feel like it did create some challenges for my body because I wasn't really getting the kind of balance that I need.
But that goes to what we're saying here. Some of these people who have been so angry for so long and so fighting a system for so long, like just that, like being in that space takes you out of balance, just like being on a particular diet without evolving for too long does. It's the same thing. So as much as it seems like unnatural to you at this point, what the answer to the issue you have isn't really fighting 5G, it's laughter. It's enjoying yourself. It's getting your body well. You know what I mean? Like for me, like I remember back when I used to just be up in arms about the chemtrails. It's not my favorite thing. I still don't like it. I would prefer if they stopped, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I will say this, when I wasn't eating healthy, I had all the Morgellons and all the stuff going on with my skin and I felt crappy and all that kind of stuff. And then all I did was change the way my life and my diet, and I don't have any of that stuff anymore. So
yeah, I've watched you change too. I've watched you go through. I mean, you started changing a while back, but I've seen that as well, and I've seen the evolution. I've seen, you know, we see the evolution with our own selves, see the evolution with myself, and the more you get into like what you're saying, the more you expand or your own personal evolution is happening. What I find is the calmer you are, you're less interested in banter or in warring with somebody else or convincing someone else. And I tend to be, in opposition. I tend to be like that. I got, you know, don't tell me what to do.
Yep.
I'm still like that.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm still like that. And
don't tell me to be angry about something I'm not actually angry about, right?
Exactly. You know, it's like we're dealing with mask wearing and stuff now, you know, and of course, you know, I'm very, you know,
you told me straight up, like, I'm not wearing a mask.
Because I don't.
Yeah.
You know, you do what you need to do, but you know what? But I will not invest in paying for a mask, and that's a whole other show. You know, and there's things that we could say. I know I could talk about, but what I have learned is common sense. There are some things that I could talk about, but not on a public forum like this, not on these kinds of platforms. So people need to keep that in mind too. There's many things that we do not get into in this kind of platform. And for one of the reasons, and this is the smaller reason why actually, is sometimes there are things that we could talk about, but it requires so much more explanation. And as we can see, people will misinterpret what you've said unless you can talk about it for 2 days to bring clarity. And also there are algorithms and so much that we contend with now with, you know, with who's listening or who's, you know, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is, you're still being sensible, you know, so it just comes back to your intuition, you know, just tuning into yourself and listening to what you need, what is needed, not to, I won't name any names, to some of these folks that are running around just going off and people are signing up for those workshops because they're going to hear all about the fear, and then they're going to give you anyway some some interesting tools and techniques to move beyond the fear, but then they're going to keep hooking you with the fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild out there.
Yeah, it's the Wild West out there. We have to allow that, though, if we want to be able to say the things that you know that we want to say and whatnot. But and the other thing, I just want to thank. We have great patrons who make all of this stuff possible, and you have great followers as well. And it's never those people that that complain, right? It's the people that sit around and consume media for free all day long, that have watched 7 million YouTube videos since YouTube came around, right? And they just sit there and wait for their dopamine hit of fear or paranoia or whatever, and they don't actually give any thought to the whole of what was said. Right? They're just so knee-jerk, and they're just
they're for bashing.
Yeah,
they're there for bashing and complaining, and we know this. So let's just, you know, like I said in the very beginning, we're aware of this. But my thought, and Emily's thought, was that if people are raising some of these I won't say concerns, or making the comments that they are, how many people are in that mindset, that space? So
Yeah.
let's just do a video that will hopefully bring some more clarity. Now, what I do know with folks, when you have people that are really stuck in a particular mindset, don't want to move off their platform, you and I could make 12 videos.
No, it doesn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. They're still on their platform of whatever it is they're ranting about. So we understand that. So I'm hoping that for those of you who are open, that may hear some things here in this video, and that will just help to propel you, or to quiet down maybe some of the fear that you might be feeling, and realize how much power you do have. That's something that I'm constantly emphasizing, how much power we really do have. And all of these externalizations really keep pulling us further away from seeing the truth of who we are and our abilities. So we don't give in to that. Don't feed the system. Don't feed the system.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I've talked about many times that there are people who, with the fear propagation, do such an adequate job at it, that the thing that they're talking about that they're worried is going to happen, that doesn't even ever need to happen, because the fear that have been propelled can create whatever the vibration that they were trying to create with the technology got created by the fear. So they never even have to create the thing. So I think that we always need to be really careful about, it's not about denying reality. It's about, being thoughtful in how you talk about it and your disposition towards dealing with things.
Absolutely. I think this is a couple of lines here. I just wanted to read it.
Yeah.
From which article? There's an article that I took this from online. Genetic change. When an environmental stress is constant and lasts for many generations, successful adaptation may develop through biological evolution. And then it goes on. I mean, I could read the whole article, but the bottom line of it is that it is understood that human beings they just evolve. I mean, adapt, and that is very similar to the immune system being able to resolve a problem, which is why they say taking Pepto-Bismol all the time is not necessarily the answer, because the body needs to record how it resolved the problem. This is how this body is designed. It needs to figure that out. And with this idea of this virus situation, part of what is happening is this particular strand is supposedly new to the body, so it didn't have the information on how to resolve the problem. Some people, yes, they allowed their body to resolve the issues. People who weren't immune compromised weren't maybe as some other people. But that's something that we need to really understand. So this is, you see how adaptation does work in that sense, because the body learns how to fix something because it has to resolve the problem. It knows how to eventually get you through a cold and the flu, because it's happened enough times where it knows, it's like, oh, okay, this is what we do.
Yeah, can you just for a second maybe address, I think a lot of people confuse this idea of physical adaptation with the possibility of having your consciousness assimilated, right? Like, I think that's where like the real, we've all been, that the AI system is going to uptake people's consciousness and turn them into something that they weren't before and whatever. But, that is a different thing than your body adapting, right? Your body can adapt to something without your mind having to be sucked into the board.
Yeah, that's very different. We're talking about biology. We're talking about the environment. We're talking about, for example, that tribe that, don't remember the tribes, an African tribe, that where they're very short. They were probably like, I don't know, 4 feet and under, but they were at one point taller. I think they lived off the the sea, the ocean, or the land somehow. But what happened is, I think the land became so barren, and they had to keep moving. And what happened over time, in order for the body to compensate for the food and everything that was needed to keep it going, it made the body started to become shorter, in order to, to be part of the environment, in order for them to survive. So the body is designed with these survival mechanisms and capabilities, and it is very pliable. So it adapts, and the brain is what picks up, the wish, the desire to survive, and the fight or flight that goes on, and wishing certain things, wishing we had longer legs, or we grew longer legs, from dinosaurs or whatever it is. So we have to understand that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about being assimilated. Like, people do that on their own anyway.
Yeah.
When you suck up information, when you suck up certain kinds of information and you're just stuck on it, and now you're going after everybody, that's a completely different situation. And that is choice.
Yeah.
That is choice. So no, we're not talking about that kind of assimilation, because I've talked about over the years, I've written about it, that group mind think. That's a Borg thinking. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a Borg type assimilation. That's like a forced assimilation. We're talking about just the collective, the genetic blueprint, the human blueprint, the blueprint for the human body, how it alters itself according to tribe, according to the environment. It could be just a tribe of people, a pocket of people. It might not necessarily be the entire world, but pockets of people operating in a tribal capacity in an environment to themselves, will, over time, if they're living in that environment generationally, they eventually adapt. They eventually develop certain necessities. What should I say? Expansion of organs.
Yeah.
Things, and certain organs may not necessarily work that much anymore. So we see that the tonsils, which they're now finding out as part of the immune system, we thought we didn't need it.
But plenty of people who had them removed because there was a time when they thought that was a good thing. Right. They've adapted it. I mean, some people it hasn't worked out that well for, but plenty of people have adapted to living without it. People adapt to living without a gallbladder, even though that's not the greatest thing ever. So, right. There's all sorts of situations, physical challenges that people adapt to. And, like I have a friend who, has had all sorts of stuff go on with his brain and his heart, and he's still one of the hardworking, best people, most aware people that I know. It hasn't actually affected the ability for his heart and his brain to function in a way that is, very intelligent and very human, so.
And we see it, look at people who are born without arms. They learn how to do things with their feet. They can write, paint, probably, write better than you and I, and do art, and do so many things. So the human being is designed to truly survive. The body is what we're talking about. And that's a whole other thing, where the confusion with who is what, people identifying the totality of who they are as their bodies. That's the other aspect of it. And it's really important that we understand this mechanism, this suit that we're in, designed for this environment and what it actually needs. And it needs you to be in the freaking driver's seat, aware, to help navigate, what needs to happen, and your decision whether you want to continue to be here for the long haul, be here or not, whatever the long haul is. There's a lot of choices that are up to us, and we just need to become aware of the extent of our ability to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So.
All right.
All righty. So there we go. That was the Sonia Loves 5G video. And
5G and being chipped.
Yeah, he wants to get chipped. Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. People, if you know me, you go back and find some old Sovereign Mind radio stuff, you find that you are out in left field.
They're not even in left field. They're not even in the ballpark.
They're not even in the, not even in the ballpark. Right?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll be back probably in not too short order. Or not too, in short order with Human Game Part 10 to piss off some more people.
Yeah.
or this was 10. I think, was this 10? Was this 9 or 10? Last one was 9 or 10, but whatever it is.
9. The next one will be 10.
And I think you're right. So the next one will be 10. And so for those who like to complain in the comment section and all that kind of jazz, there'll be more of that.
Oh my God. You people are just hysterical.
Yeah.
It's hysterical, So anyway, hopefully, you start feeling well.
Right? Go for a walk, get some fresh air, have some healthy food, reconsider, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.